and we're off. Buongiorno, come stai? The sun's a bit funny today. The sun is shining, which is not a bad thing. Good afternoon. It's been a little while. A wine and a film for you, as per usual. A particularly nice reason for this little chat. The wine I'll show you is this wine here, Nebbiolo d'Alba. Nebbiolo is the grape. For those of you who don't know, it's the Barolo grape. So this is in Piemonte. Alba is the town where the wines are made, or surrounding rather. But as I say, Alba is the town, one of the main towns where they make Barolo. This is the grape they make Barolo with, but the appellation is Nebbiolo d'Alba. So it's not the Barolo appellation, but it's a similar idea. They tend to be a little bit soft, lighter, younger drinking, not as expensive, not as complex, but it's nice to have the comparison anyway. The film is a bit more bizarre from the perspective of the wine. You see Alba here. Now, Alba is in Piemonte, so northwest Italy. And I couldn't think of a film related to northwest Italy. But the name Alba is the old Gaelic name for Scotland. Alba, bizarrely enough. So, having recently been to Scotland, I had several films I wanted to talk about. The one I'm going to choose is this one here. It's called Restless Natives. And unless you're Scottish, you won't have heard of it. Everyone in Scotland has heard of this film, and no one else has, which is a bit of a shame because it's a little gem from the 80s. Anyway, more of that in a second. So, yeah, Nebbiolo is the grape, as I said, that they make Barolo and Barbaresco with. Nebbiolo d'Alba appellation, generally a little bit less glamorous, a little bit less expensive, but it's the same grape, so therefore it's worth a go because Barolo is obviously one of the world's fantastic great wines. Classic red brick colour, see that? That's a classic Nebbiolo. On the nose, you tend to get red fruits and things like that. There's a particular unique characteristic to Nebbiolo grape with this Barolo, Barbaresco, this one here. It's almost bitter. People talk about roses as well on the nose. You get cherries and sometimes raspberries. And you can almost smell the dryness, if that makes sense. Yeah, so it's kind of earthy, aromatic, not aromatic, but earthy, and I see with those red fruits coming through. Right, okay. You can see what the tannins are doing. Barolo is known for the tannic structure. Traditionally, Barolos took 10-15 years to age sufficiently for the tannins to soften sufficiently to become drinkable. Obviously, these days with extraction techniques are different. This is a wine you would drink. Now, these Nebbiolo d'Albas are designed generally at this kind of range to be drunk relatively quickly. With the tannin on there, you could probably leave it. So I'm almost getting a bit of licorice now in the back from the tannins. That's really interesting. But when you get wine that's that tannic, essentially it's saying, feed me, feed me, feed me. You know, to drink a wine that tannic, after a couple of glasses, you're going to be like, ah. You're going to have an extremely dry palate. So food isn't orderly with any kind of Nebbiolo, I would say. It's just such a fantastic grape because it kind of coats your tongue, but then there's this warmth and there's the earthiness and the fruits. It's known to be one of the world's great grapes for obvious reasons. Like Pinot Noir, it's completely unique. Like a Pinot Noir, when you smell it, it can't be anything else. Things like Cabernet Sauvignons and Syrah and stuff, you can make mistakes with them in terms of on the nose. You can not necessarily always identifiable. Well, they're less so than say Nebbiolo or Pinot Noir, which is literally the minute you smell it, you know right away. This is a nice little wine. You'll find this probably, it's a little bit commoner now to find the Nebbiolo d'Alba classification and denomination in supermarkets or in wine shops these days or online. You can buy this, and it tends to be, it's of the three, it's the lowest in price in general. So you've got Nebbiolo d'Alba, then the Barbaresco, then the Barolos, and the thing about Barolo is it's like any expensive wine. It's the fine line between if you're not paying too much for it, you're taking a slight risk potentially. in terms of what you're going to get. So it's good that Nebbiolo has made it onto a bit at least into the British market, because traditionally even Barbaresco wasn't that easy to come by, but much more so now rather. Sorry. So yeah, fantastic wine. It's ideally looking for meat. I would say game, for example, venison, dark kind of game birds. You could have partridge, pheasant, that type of thing. Nothing too, not like a heavy steak, because it's not a heavy wine. It's not heavy on the palate. It's very tannic, but it's not weighty particularly. So you don't want something too big in terms of your cuisine. For me, game, some kind of game birds, or maybe venison if it was slowly cooked, would be a lovely match with a thing like an Nebbiolo. It's pretty much a winter wine, and winter's obviously not far away now. So these are it's the kind of grape that you're more likely to drink as the days get shorter and colder, and game and things like that become more prominent. So it's that kind of earthiness, the herbaceousness of the wine suits things like game birds, for example, when you're using maybe rosemary or thyme, or all those kinds of flavours really work well together. You could have it with a strong flavoured cheese as well. There's lots of cheeses out there that would match up. But for me, some kind of game, but not too heavy. A game bird, or a partridge, or a pheasant or something, or even a rabbit, if you've got the right seasoning. Delicious. So there we go. How many minutes? 6 minutes. Okay, I'll get cracking with the film. So Alba, hence Scotland, Alba being Gaelic for Scotland. The film is Restless Natives, you can see that there. It's a film from 1985. I saw it in the cinema back then when I was a kid, and as I say, everyone in Scotland has seen it, and almost everyone loves it. But no one out of England, outside of Scotland, has ever heard of the film. It's very bizarre. It didn't. It's intriguing as to why it didn't have more success over beyond Scottish shores, because it has lots of qualities which you would have imagined in principle would have resonated with audiences beyond Scotland, but for whatever reason it didn't. That didn't happen. Essentially, I'll show you again. You've got the Clown and the Wolfman. It's basically Restless Natives. It's two young guys in Edinburgh in the mid-80s who are done in their luck. One's a street sweeper, and the other guy works in a trick shop, like a joke shop. Both of them are a bit depressed and skint, no money. It's mid-80s, Thatcherism and all that. That's some of the symbols of the film. And basically, one of them has the idea of, why don't they start robbing American coach tours up in the Highlands of Scotland, dressed as a clown and a wolfman, which is what they do. They become very successful at it and very popular. And ironically, they become the kind of a bigger tourist attraction than the Highlands themselves. And it's a comedy with some pathos, and there's a love story involved as well. And it's a political film. It's talking about money and poverty and difficult circumstances which were happening in the mid-80s, and how the values were changing, and how money was becoming, be all and end all with the kind of the times, and how it can affect values and all that type of stuff. It's a film about relationships between the two friends who kind of, as you would imagine, go off in different directions halfway through the film, and then they come back together again when they realise that their friendship is more important than money, and so on. There's also a love story, as I said, involving one of the guys and a girl who's on the bus as the coach guide, one of the buses that they rob. There's a nostalgic element to it as well. The 80s is a long time ago, and as a Scot, it's a film that I can relate to. I know the dialogue and the lyrics. Sorry, I'll explain that in a second. It's an emotional film to watch after all this time, because I hadn't seen it for a long time. I don't know how long. But I was up in Scotland, and I saw it in a shop, and I'm getting that. And one of the other things as well, the reason that surprised me, it's not a purely Scottish cast. There's some international elements to the cast in there. You've got Ned Beatty, who was an actor from Superman films, American. There's a dog over there whining. Hey, what's wrong? What's wrong? Just let me talk to the cat, okay? All right. Just want to say hello. You see her? Where is she? Where are you? This is Freckles. Hello, Freckles. Want to say hi? Nice to see you. And she's put me off. How many minutes on? 9:56. So keep out the sun. Whatever it is, give me a sec. Ned Beatty, Bernard Hill, the English actor, fine actors in it. He plays the father of one of the guys. It's just a nice film with good values, and it's funny. And I was talking to a friend of mine who's a friend of one of the actors, and we were saying we couldn't understand why it didn't succeed beyond Scotland, and it's one of these mysteries, because maybe it was too political at the time, maybe it was too obviously making a point, maybe it was too... I can't explain that. There's been some successful Scottish films over the year which are inherently Scottish, like Whiskey Galore, Comfort and Joy, Local Hero, Gregory's Girl, all these types of things, back in the day, and they are incredibly Scottish. But maybe it's just a mystery as to why. Maybe it was, I don't know, who knows. Sometimes things just don't have the success that perhaps they merit. The other thing to mention of the film, one of the other joys of the film, is the soundtrack, which I was thinking of earlier. It was by the band Big Country, a very fine Scottish band, of whom the lead singer, unfortunately, took his own life about 20 years ago, Stuart Adamson. But the soundtrack is wonderful. Lots of kind of rockier music, and then some very, very soft, more acoustic style guitar playing, very atmospheric. The film has some great visuals. There's scenes in Edinburgh, driving through Edinburgh. There's scenes of the mountains and the Highlands. It's stunning. You realise what a stunning place Scotland is. So it's a really good film. You get it online, or if you're in Edinburgh, you get it in FOP. That's where I got it, on Road Street. Restless Natives. If you want a wee bit of nostalgia, if you're a fan of Scotland, if you're a fan of these kind of films, the kind of buddy movie type thing, where they're kind of bad guys, but they're essentially good guys, and blah, 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 you get the idea. Give it a go. So, 11 minutes, I've talked a lot today. Nebbiolo d'Alba is the wine, Restless Natives is the film. I'll say to you, bon weekend. Arrivederci, alla prochaine. Ciao, ciao, ciao.